Good morning. This is Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. It's August 30th at 6 a.m. This is an update on Hurricane Idalia for the All Hazards Consortium, sensitive information sharing environment to help the movement of fleet utility vehicles and the coordination across state lines. We have a major hurricane on our hands, folks. Idalia's 130-mile-per-hour winds are making landfall within the next couple of hours in the Big Bend area of Florida. Storm surges of 10 to 15 feet will result from this Category 4 hurricane making landfall. Those surges will go significantly inland because the land there is very, very flat. We're likely to have significant damage from those storm surges and also from the wind that is going to extend very far inland. Matter of fact, you can see from the satellite picture right now that the devastating hurricane is making its way on inland. I want to show you the satellite picture a little bit more full screen here. And anywhere you see those reds and oranges is just a destructive part of the storm. Winds encircling the eye wall at 130 miles per hour will be pushing a lot of water inland. As a matter of fact, you can see down towards Tampa, the wind is coming in very strong at 30 to 40 miles per hour from the southwest. That is pushing a lot of water into Tampa Bay, and there are reports of widespread flooding throughout Gulfport, St. Pete Beach, up towards Madeira Beach, Reddington Beach, all the way up to Clearwater and points north. The flooding is just going to be higher and higher as the tide gets high as well. So what I want to do is switch over to GeoCollaborate and show you the impacts that we're talking about from this storm. I'm going to move this up just a little bit further. Anywhere you see in this purple here, this is wind damage, expected wind damage from the National Weather Service. So there's a threat level here, potential wind of 110 miles per hour or greater. That's going to topple numerous trees, snap them, uproot them. Roadway signs will be blown over. Many roads will be made impassable from this storm and the winds that are going to be impacted. But that's not where it stops. Take a look at how far inland the wind damage is expected. You can see even up here into southern Georgia, in Valdosta, and other areas in southeast Georgia, the potential for wind of 74 to 110 miles per hour exists anywhere you see this red area. And it even exists here in coastal Georgia. Threats for 74 to 110 mile per hour winds. This is going to cause widespread damage. Combined with the heavy rainfall, not only are trees going to snap, but they'll be uprooted from this strong wind. Idalia is a Category 4 storm and is expected to be in southern Georgia. In southern Georgia, I'm going to switch over here to the advisory position, the 120-hour track here, and well, you can see the winds of 74 to 110 miles per hour in this red area. Even in coastal Charleston, look at this, in southeast South Carolina, where they have unobstructed wind from these strong winds that are going to be coming in off the coast, threat level of 74 to 110 mile per hour winds. In the orange area in southeast Georgia, 58 to 73 mile per hour winds are the expected speed of the winds coming in. That's going to create damage to large trees, snapped or uprooted, some roads impassable from large debris, and more within urban or heavily wooded places. So for the All Hazards Consortium partners across states, we're talking about a wide swath of impacts here. And I'm going to scroll down just a little bit so you can see coastal North Carolina as well. These yellow areas are winds of 39 to 57 miles per hour that are expected. That includes all the way up to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Idalia has a very large wind field and is expected to move in the path of the cone. You can see that. But obviously, it's obvious the damage extends far beyond the cone. You can see that. The cone is just an indication of where the center The center of the storm is expected to move. And even when we have the storm here, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit closer here, see if I can get the forecast impact from the forecast wind speed, actually. The wind speeds are supposed to be 100 miles per hour from the National Hurricane Center here when the storm reaches southeast Georgia. That's 100 miles per hour at this particular time. So we're maintaining hurricane intensity throughout the panhandle of Florida, into southeast Georgia, and in towards Waycross and other towns. Brunswick also expected to have winds of 74 to 110 miles per hour. Now I'm going to switch over here. I'm going to turn off the expected wind impacts, and I want to turn on the inland impacts here. So this is for rainfall. Anywhere in this red area, we can expect heavy rain, major flooding events, and that extends all the way to the southern part of the Outer Banks of North Carolina. This is the high probability of flooding rains. So we're beyond the wind. I've switched over to rainfall impacts here. We're talking about rainfall that could cause catastrophic flooding, especially where those spiral bands set up and sit for a little while. Now you can see the prospect of flooding. The potential for moderate flooding rain exists in the orange areas. That means rivers and tributaries may quickly become swollen with swifter currents and overspill their banks in a few places, especially in usually vulnerable spots. So small streams, creeks, canals, and ditches will overflow in these areas that you see in orange. That is a moderate flooding rain potential. You can see how wide that potential is as well. And down in Florida, you can see that most of the state has a flooding potential today because of those spiral bands that will continue to plague the state. Now, I'll turn on the radar data. This is the radar data showing the current location of the hurricane, of Hurricane Idalia. And you can see that the eye is still offshore at 6 a.m., but it is about to come onshore, and there is going to be catastrophic storm surge along this entire area. You can even see these bands setting up that have incredible rainfall rates of 3 to, in some cases, 5 inches of rain per hour. But the wind is still sweeping in along the Gulf Coast of Florida. And you can see it's already sweeping in onshore in Georgia and in South Carolina. So those winds are going to pick up in coastal Georgia and South Carolina as the hurricane makes landfall. So I'm going to turn the radar data off here for a second, and then turn on another impact, and that is the coastal threats. So the coastal threats for Idalia are significant and limited to the coast. You can see the area where the storm is about to make landfall. We're talking about storm surges of 9 to 15 feet. 9 to 15 feet in this area in coastal Florida, right in the Big Bend area. In the south of Tallahassee, in the coastline there, we're talking about more than 6 feet above ground level. That will do significant damage. But look at this impact up the coast. From coastal Georgia, we're talking about greater than 3 feet above normally dry ground. In Charleston, in South Carolina, greater than 3 feet. So 3 to 5 foot storm surge is highly likely here in coastal South Carolina, even up to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. As we get to inland here, these are the Outer Banks here, Cape Hatteras here, Wilmington down here. Wilmington is here. So even in the Wilmington area for coastal flooding, there's going to be little or no storm surge in Wilmington. However, along the coast, let me zoom in here a little bit closer so I can click on this. Along the coast, more than a foot of storm surge is expected. Those winds will be pushing onshore. So that's a look at the coastal impacts. And I want to just show you from the standpoint of these impacts state by state. So we're looking at Florida. We're seeing catastrophic wind and rain and flooding and storm surge. That is for the state of Florida, for our partners in the All Hazards Consortium. In Georgia, look for significant wind, particularly in southern and southeastern Georgia. Significant wind, rain, flooding, and surge along the coastline. And also in South Carolina, significant wind, rain, flooding, and surge, particularly around the Charleston, even in, up to Myrtle Beach, in the Grand Strand there, some tidal flooding with that onshore wind. So that will be some surge there as well. And in North Carolina, we'll see wind damage from gusty winds. The system will still have strong gusty winds over tropical storm force, and that will result in downed trees and power lines, and we'll see coastal impacts on the Outer Banks. So that's the update for 6 o'clock this morning. We'll be keeping you posted. We'll do another update this afternoon as Idalia makes its way onshore. Again, a Category 4 hurricane has never hit this part of Florida in recorded history. So now that makes another Category 4 storm. Ian last year was a Category 5, upgraded after its landfall based on aircraft measurements. So we'll keep you posted. I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. This has been a 6 a.m. update for the All Hazards Consortium, Sensitive Information Sharing Environment, Fleet Response Working Group, to keep our partners across multiple states and in the utility industry and the food, fuel, private sector industry updated as well. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later.